YouTube, it's Cash. It's been a while since my last video, and this is the reason why. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this now and in the future. This is the time interval generator. This is basically turns things on and off with relays using both powered and non-powered connections. If you had a bunch of these, you would be the envy of the neighborhood during Christmas time. Probably how I ended up finding this at a thrift store. The reason why I'm calling this the Cube of Possibilities is credited to the unique way this device can be used to create rhythms. When I was making the outline for this video, I was overwhelmed by the volume of information, so I'll put time marks in the description below if you want to skip around. All of the connections on the time interval generator are relay controlled. There are 4 powered plugs, 2 normally on, 2 normally off, and 12 non-powered, 6 grounds, 6 normally on, and 6 normally off. The unique way this device works lies in the relays. The normally on will trigger with a long on and a short off, with the normally off triggering with a long off and a short on. You can delay the timing of the relays with a 0 to 10 second control and then multiply the seconds by 10, giving you up to 100 seconds. This could be very useful for ambient experiments, but I'm not going there in this video because the tempo can also be controlled by a resistor, and I quickly realized I could make this a lot more interesting by using a photoresistor. This takes advantage of the unique relay relationship to the resistance clock and normally on and off options. The result is a smattering of polyrhythms and odd time signatures. I love the relay sound, so I glued a piezo to the relays and to the metal case to pick up the acoustics. I added a potentiometer to control the mix between the two, and I found that I could also place anything on the cube I want to amplify. In this first experiment, I plugged a Dremel tool into one of the powered outputs and rested it on top of the cube piezo to pick up the sound combined with the relay clicks. I then put that through the Charlie Foxtrot by Maleko. I used my circuit bent sound effects machine that I featured in my optical chopper series. It has contacts that short the potentiometers, so it works well with the non-powered relay controlled switches. I affected the output with the BitQuest by Dr. Scientist to emphasize the synthy electric sound. I'm affecting the photoresistor with an emergency light to make rhythms. In this experiment, I wanted to try to expand on the sound. Tecmo made a video on these Bandai 8-band toy record players. I modified mine to have a similar output to the Cube. With a potentiometer, I can control the mix from the direct signal and the piezo glued to the speaker. I also added contacts to control the power with a bypass switch. I'm putting that through the count to 5 by Montreal Assembly. I plugged my modified Mago 2XL into the time interval generator. Link in the corner if you want to know more about that. And I put that through the Borderlands by Hungry Robot. I used the same setup from my sound effects machine and BitQuest as before, but this time I sent the Dremel relay signal through the Tensor by Red Panda. After trying this, I felt I wasn't taking full advantage of the light-affected photoresistance. I realized I already had a device from my hometown that may do the trick. This shutter driver, another thrift store find, is from the Rochester era where Kodak was in full swing. If you wanted a precise repeated shutter control, this device could do it for you. I avoided using it with my test equipment because the voltage that triggers the shutter output is high and inconsistent, but I knew it would power an LED. It burned out almost every LED I had, but I ordered these long ago because they were cheap and they looked cool. I couldn't get enough voltage out of my circuit bent projects to make them do anything, but they worked perfect for this. I didn't need to, but I added this resistor for a bit of protection and to prolong the LED's lifespan. I used a closed junction box to house the LED and photoresistor, or LDR, with banana connectors so that the shutter driver can control the time interval generator. The features of the shutter driver give me precise light control. There's milliseconds, seconds with peak, normally open and closed, delay interval in milliseconds, and choice of square or pulse wave for light flashes. Another great feature is that it can also be controlled with voltage, so I can control it with test equipment, synths, and drum machines. Here's a taste of that so you can hear how the rhythms are made even though the shutter light is steadily flashing on and off. In the next experiment, I decided to incorporate some test equipment with the shutter driver. I've backed off my test equipment wall recently because I think it's a bit over the top for a lot of people, even though it's fun. And I've tried to keep my videos visually smaller. I'm going to use 2 units off the wall and a few more on my desk. First, I'm using this pulse generator. I originally modified this for my series on flexi cutups where I use contact switches to trigger the generator. In a similar way, I trigger the non-powered relay-controlled switches of the time interval generator to trigger the pulse generator to translate the rhythms to the rest of my test equipment, like my data sequence generator. This device makes very interesting rhythms with any input, clock, or rhythm pattern. I use the rhythmed data out to trigger my BK function generator where I make my wood blockish percussion sound by putting it through the Brew & Care Type 1613 octave filter. The data sequence generator can also find a pseudo clock in whatever you put into it and provide a halftime version of this clock as well. I use the halftime output to trigger this exact sweep generator for bass. I was going to use this filter too, but I decided to keep the bass part full range. I'm flexing my way huge effect pedals in this one. I used the Bandai 8-band again, and I added an LED for resistance to tail the sound, and then I put that through the Echopus. The engraver relay piezo are through the Atreides. I also played the Sukio ST40 Poetry Trainer Koto synthesizer through my ringworm. For my last experiment, I wanted to try my bent Yamaha DD-7. My original intention for this was to use the patch bay with a cam-driven sequencer, which I have parts for but I never built. I will someday for another video. The time interval generator makes a perfect substitute. I wanted everything to talk to each other, so I used a pocket clocket by Mazenzef Modular, which can be clocked by a loud drum signal. I split the output of the DD-7 and ran one leg into the pocket clocket, which also generates its own rhythms. It has 4 independent CV outputs. I took one of the CVs and fed it back through the shutter driver so that the overall electrical interpretation of the signal through the devices can affect and feed back into itself in a weird way. The rest of the CVs are run into a Behringer cat. The shutter driver affects the time interval generator, which triggers an Olegtron, the DD-7, and a fan. I taped a Soma Ether to the fan to pick up the EMF, and I put that through a syntax error by Alexander. The piezo relays and fan are through the Red Panda Tensor. One of the interesting things about this demo is that the drum pattern is changed by the bends being triggered by the time interval generator. I do change the drum pattern and slow down the tempo of the DD-7 at the end to show how everything affects each other in real time. Everything is mixed through a realistic 32-1210 stereo audio mixer. If you don't know, I typically mix out with a small board in stereo for most of my videos. I grab this mixer whenever I need a few more tracks, and I just accept that it's the time to embrace its positives and negatives. It has its own sound. Call it dirt, call it color, call it garbage. I like it regardless because it forces me to change my perspective.